Well, welcome. This is the Commercial Mastery Series, module number 2. This is the power of commercial real estate. I'm Kevin Derrick, glad that you're here. And what I want to do now is give you commercial real estate philosophy to really ground this foundation and this framework that we're building. And we're going to hit different sectors and different areas of commercial, and I think that this is going to be super exciting to really understand and get a feel of where commercial real estate can take us. So when you stop and think about it, there is a really big difference. There's a big chasm between residential and commercial. Let me just mention a few of them in this module. When you start looking at commercial real estate, one of the areas of difference that you are going to see right away is that what you're used to is a lender that analyzes you instead of the property. You know, it's the typical scenario that as a primary home, we end up talking to a mortgage banker or a mortgage broker, and they are concerned about two elements. They want to know what our credit score is, and they want to know what our debt to income is, right? Yeah, it gets a little bit frustrating. Really, all you are is a number, not a lot of relationship in that situation. With commercial, it's totally different. With commercial, the lender is actually all about the property. They really want to look at the building first, and then you second. When you're buying a single family home with a Fannie Freddie Mac note, then all they're concerned about is, okay, can your cash flow afford this based on how much money that you're bringing in? They don't even ask about the deal. You know, one of the areas that you will see that has, in this situation, with a big difference is if you ever talk to a hard money lender. I mean, they get it, right? They understand investing. You know what one of the first questions a hard money lender will ask will be? One of the questions they will ask is, okay, well, what's the ARV? All right, the after repaired value. What's the rehab? How much do you think that you can get it for? The reason that they target those questions is because to them, it's all about the property. They want to write on a good deal. And so, yeah, the actual borrower has some importance there for sure, but ultimately they're not going to write it if it's not a good deal. And if it is a good deal, they're going to want to get involved. You see the difference there? A super huge imbalance between how residential works and the greatness and power of commercial real estate. All right, so let's move on. Residential, your ability to pay the mortgage is always in question, all right? They're watching that constantly, right? And especially when you're doing your initial paperwork. Well, in commercial, the truth is that it's the property's ability to pay the mortgage that's the main criteria. Because to the lender, the building is expected to pay the mortgage. You see that? The building is expected to pay the mortgage. Now that's a huge difference, and the reason that that is so significant is because in residential, there's a limited number of properties that you can go after. I mean, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 10, sometimes it's 8. We just sometimes have no idea what Fannie and Freddie will allow us to do sometimes in a conventional loan scenario. With commercial, it's unlimited. There is an unlimited number of properties that you can purchase because the lender is looking at the building first rather than just at those numbers that you have. You know, lenders are interested in investing just like you are, and it's helpful to start knowing how lenders think. Now, lenders may think a lot of you, but if the deal is not a good deal, why would they make that investment? You may believe in it, but if it's not a good deal, you don't want to bring in investors, right? You don't want to invest in a poor deal, I hope. Neither does a lender. So knowing how the lender critiques and understanding how they run through their mechanisms of valuation to see whether the investment is a quality investment is really important. That's what I'm teaching you in the Commercial Mastery series. So know this, it's all about the relationship, and they're willing to look at the building and want to do that in their analysis. In residential, you are buying a building. You're buying the land, you're buying the piece of real estate. You get the tax bill every year, and it shows you that, okay, now you owe more taxes because the land went up, right, and the building went up. Or in this economy, sometimes the land value has gone down, the dwelling value has gone down, but the mill rates have gone up, so you still owe the same or more taxes, right? That's how it works. Well, in commercial, you're not just buying a building, you are buying a business. That's why in the first module, I drew that box and asked you to draw that so that you understood that whether it's the apartment sector or the office sector or retail, you've got two different elements that are working together. You have the real estate piece and you have the business piece. In commercial, you are buying a business. And that is such a huge difference and such a positive, because ultimately you want to make cash flow. You want to create passive income. You want to invest in commercial for yield, right? To make money. It's the rate of return. So having real estate alone doesn't allow you to have a lot of control. But listen, when you are controlling a business, when you are investing in a business, not just a building, then you're able to increase income, you're able to manage effectively and bring down expenses and wring expenses so that your net operating income increases, your value increases, and you make more money. And what you've just done is you've effected the rate of return. Folks, that's the power of commercial real estate. In residential, lenders in most cases want to know where your down payment comes from. You've probably heard those questions. If you say, well, I'm just going to bring in this $25,000 from credit cards, I've got a Visa card and I've got a big, credit limit, the lender doesn't want to hear that. They want to know that you've got some cash socked away in a savings account making 0.75 interest, every year, making absolutely nothing. But, you've got the cash there and you're ready to go. In commercial, the lenders think differently. The lenders don't care where the down payment comes from. They just want to know that you understand that it's about loan to value. That acronym is LTV. It's all about loan to value. Why? Because the lender's interested in an investment where they're mitigating their risk, where they're diminishing their exposure. Now, a lot of lenders have become aggressive in the last decade until the economy had some difficulty, and those loan to values were increasing. There were lenders that we used that would loan 80% of the after repaired value on commercial notes. Well, when you're doing that, that's really aggressive lending. In fact, you have two types of small commercial local bank lender types. You have the traditional and you have the aggressive. The aggressive ones are undoubtedly in trouble. They made a lot of money when things were going well. Now they're struggling just to make sure that they keep their capitalization. The Federal Reserve is all over them. The traditional conservative lenders are still around. And the reason that they're around is because they watched their leverage. They watched their loan to value. They'd make the borrower come in with more money. They would be at 60% loan to value, or 65%, or 70%. So to the lender, it's not necessarily where the money's coming from. To the lender, it's mitigating risk, and that's a huge plus for us as commercial investors. That means that we can get a seller to hold a note. That means that we can do owner financing, of course, but to get a seller to hold 5, 10, 15, 20% or more, we can bring in private equity. Remember, there are 3 different entities that invest in commercial. There's the investor, like the sole proprietor. There's the institution, but then there's this corporation, and it may be a bunch of investors that get together, business partners, colleagues, family, friends, neighbors. They get together, they invest together. You may know of some people that would be very, very interested in investing. You say, well, Kevin, I got to be successful first. Let me tell you the 2 things that you absolutely must do as you share with people about real estate and the opportunity to invest here in mitigating your own risk. You need to do 2 things. Number 1, you need to get them to understand what you're doing. And then number 2, they've got to be able to trust you. The reason that people say no to good opportunities is, number 1, they don't understand, and number 2, they don't trust. We've actually had situations where we proved that the rate of return on the investment would average over 30% in a deal. And we actually had people with strong capitalization, very well capitalized, a lot of money, and they said no. Why? Because they just didn't believe it. They just didn't believe that there was that type of return. They figured to get that type of return, you had to have really high risk. Those same people, had we shared with them that they would make 12.3% annually, boom, they would have done it. Why? Because they did another investment where the rate of return was nominal. But to them, they understood that risk, and then the trust started to increase. So if you can do that, if you can get people to understand what you're doing, and if they trust you, then you will get people to invest. So just make a list of potential prospects, because when you're doing commercial real estate, you can bring in private equity. If we work together in a 3-day mentorship, I'll really get into this. I'll show you how it's done. I'll show you how we do presentations in my home, at my dining room table. I'll take you through a packet. I'll make a packet for you, customize it for you and your business to teach people how to be investors in a commercial project. It is awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. Now, in residential, sellers, brokers, and lenders are typically not open to creative financing. Now, you may have already experienced that. Sometimes lenders don't even understand. Sometimes the brokers don't understand, the agents don't, and for sure many times the sellers don't. Well, in commercial, it's almost expected. And here's why. Sandwich leases, lease options, wholesaling, those types of strategies, they all started in commercial real estate, folks. It all started. We've been doing it in commercial for a very long time. Just you had a couple of smart, savvy people who saw, hey, wait a minute, people make a lot of money in commercial. Why don't we use those same strategies over here in residential? And we'll just say that, hey, these are new strategies for residential. We've been doing it in commercial for a long, long time. And so it comes as no surprise that sellers, brokers, and lenders are completely familiar with creative financing. In residential, financials are figured on a monthly basis. It's kind of this thing where, you know what, if you can afford it, by making the monthly payment, then doggone it, let's do it. But in commercial, it's all annual. In a couple of modules from now, I'm going to be taking you through the cash flow model. It's really good stuff, and it's going to help you, and it's going to give you a lot of confidence in analyzing and spotting a good deal. And when we do that, you'll see that financials are figured on a yearly basis. It doesn't have to be January to December. It can just be May to April or October to September. It's just a 12-month period of time. In residential, the records and financials quite often, and you probably have seen this if you're trying to put deals together, many times those financials are not recorded professionally at all, are they? But in commercial, you need to get a bookkeeper, you need to get an accountant, you need to do things right. Get your QuickBooks down. If you're not good at that, then get people on your team that can help you. Do it right from day number one. It's a huge, huge difference in commercial. Why? Because commercial is run as a business. We've got to treat it like a business. That way people will respect us and they'll want to do business with us. And many times they'll want to invest. In residential, smaller loans, typically fit under what we would call the Federal Reserve guidelines or regulatory guidelines, and the banks don't compete for your business. It is what it is. The numbers are what they are. You know, you'll have some minor tweaks, but if it's Fannie Freddie, it's going to be a 30-year amortization typically, and it's going to be an interest rate that's probably within, 50, 60 basis points of everything else. All right? In commercial, everything, and write this down, in commercial, everything is negotiable. Everything. I mean the amortization, the interest rate, the loan to value, the creativity of putting the deal together. Larger loans may be kept in-house with these small commercial banks. Consequently, they're servicing the debt and they're interested in building the relationship. That's why with commercial projects, it's typically a situation where we build a lender packet and we feed it to different lenders to see who has an opportunity to write on it and who wants to be able to write on that opportunity. In residential, property value is based primarily from like property, comps. Well, look, if I've got a 20-unit apartment building and there aren't any other 20-unit apartment buildings in the whole community that are that size, that age, with the type of amenities and that type of location, it's going to be really hard. And so the property value in commercial is based primarily on income. And many times the factors of replacement cost and comparable assets, those will enter in there if they're available. But primarily, it's income driven. And that's an awesome thing for us as investors because that gives us some control. You know, when I dump 100 grand and buy IBM stock, I don't have any control over that. The only control that I have is when I pull the string and I sell. That's it. I'm not in the boardroom. I'm not in the conference room of IBM. I'm not making those decisions. But when I invest in commercial real estate, I've got some control over it. You know what? I can do things with a property management team. I can watch my expenses. All right? I can put more amenities in. I can put some other income in. I can put a billboard on the side of the building. All right? I can create some parking and generate added revenue. Anything that we can do to increase income and mitigate expenses. We make more money, we're worth more, our net worth increases. That's why in residential, raising the income of the property doesn't dramatically change the property value. If you have a single family rental and you move the rent from $1,000 to $1,200, that's super, you're increasing your cash flow, but not the actual value of the property because it's just based on comps. And it's out of your control. In commercial, the increasing the income opportunity actually changes dramatically the value of the property. Absolutely amazing. It's the power of commercial real estate. That's why in a cash flow analysis, as I have right here, when you're doing single families and duplexes, that type of thing, the vacancies are just going to kill you. Because when you've got a single family and you lose a tenant, not a lot that you can do right there. But when I've got a 20-unit building and I lose a couple tenants, then I already have vacancy built in, and I'm okay. I'm still making money. I'm still running cash flow. And if I can mitigate the vacancies and keep my occupancy up, I can make even more money. In residential, properties appreciate at the rate of other properties in the area. As we've said, in commercial, the property appreciates with the area, but mostly it's driven by what the property is bringing in. The value of the asset is generated by its revenue because it's a business, okay? Finally, management companies are not really set up to handle things residentially, but in the commercial spectrum, you can bring in a property management company. If I've got a 20-unit building, I can try to manage it myself, or I can just build into my cash flow analysis the fact that I'm going to have a property manager that's going to be on the payroll. Am I eating into my cash flow? Sure I am. Does it allow me to go look for the next deal? Sure it does. Absolutely. All right. This is the power of commercial real estate. You know, somebody asked me the other day, well, would you say that commercial is like apples and oranges to residential? And I would say emphatically with a bold, italicized, underlined, yes, absolutely it is. There's no question in the world that commercial real estate is totally different than residential. And that's why commercial is truly the power of understanding income and expenses, and it's realizing the fact that we can make incredible profit when we understand the power of commercial real estate. Listen, this is a great time to spend a few minutes on our website. Check out the commercial section, find me on there, look at the opportunities to have me work one-on-one with you, teaching you a lot of things in these modules, but nothing is like working on the ground together for 3 days. It's what I do. I'm a coach, I'm a mentor, do that 2 or 3 times a month, just depending on the schedule. We can customize a plan for you so that you can maximize the power of commercial real estate in your business. We'll see you in module number 3.